representing the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. I am one of their board members, and we're going to be joined by Alexi Giannoulias, who is going to be with us via Zoom. We get these technical difficulties figured out. And so we'll tell you guys a little bit about the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. So we work with 150 organizations and hundreds of leaders to strengthen the voices of often invisible and developing communities of all races, faiths, and backgrounds. We are proud to partner with our allies on this critical forum. So whenever, Alexi, you're ready?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. All right, so today I'm joined by Alexi. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I am a little disappointed you weren't able to make it. It makes me feel like you don't care about us. So in 3 minutes or less, tell us why, even though you weren't able to make it, why you do deserve our vote and why you are the best candidate for this position.
Well, first of all, thank you all very much for having me. I feel horrible that I can't be there. We have a couple of other events. I had to step away from the current event, but it's very important to be able to address you, and I look forward to coming out and saying hi to everyone in person. You know, it is a big state, and we have a lot demanded of us, so I'm sorry that I can't be there. I would have loved to have been there. I am incredibly proud of the support I've received from this outstanding organization. In the past, when I ran for treasurer, when I ran for the United States Senate, I'm proud of the support we received from a number of leaders like Mayor Jason Patel, like Senator Rahm, my former deputy treasurer, Raja Krishnamurthy. I also want to take a second to thank the Women's March Chicago, the Young Democrats of Illinois, Otis Syrian, Common Cause Illinois, the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, and the Asian American Midwest Progressives. Thank you so much for everything and you've done. We have worked very, very hard during this campaign to not only get a coalition of support that I think represents the people of Chicago. We've had support from folks in the African American community, in the Latino community, the Southern County Chairman have endorsed us, the earliest they've ever endorsed us as 26th Southern County Chairman. I think being the only candidate that's run outside the state of Chicago has been very important. Supporting the college, the suburbs. Fundraising has been very successful, and most importantly, I think we've had a successful campaign so far is because we talk about policy. This is an office that touches more people's lives on a day-to-day basis than any other office. It's the largest Secretary of State's office in the United States, and we've talked a lot about modernization, how we can make people's lives easier. We talked about our State of the Line program. Just today, we announced that we're going to work hard on social justice issues. We're working with Representative Michelle Ford to end an antiquated law that targets minorities. We've talked about making sure that anyone who leaves prison has a state ID. So we've worked hard on not just the core issues within the office, but also focusing on environmental, social justice issues. And I promise you this will be an issue-based campaign based on public policy. I'm very excited about the campaign. I'm very excited about the experience. And I do want to take a second to not only recognize the other candidates, because running for office is very hard. And you make a lot of sacrifices. So my shout out to the other candidates who put themselves out there, who are traveling the state. I also want to give a shout out to Secretary of State Jesse White, who took an office that was full of scandal and corruption, cleaned it up. One of the finest public servants I've ever known. Jesse White's numbers have helped over 18,000 young boys and kids and live a life of hope and dream. So I'm honored to work hard to continue his legacy of public service. I'm incredibly excited about this campaign. I believe deeply in public service, and I will just say this. I grew up on the north side of Chicago, not too far from where all of you are right now. And I will tell you that both of my parents came to this country as immigrants. And when they came here, they had nothing. But they believed in the promise of America, that in this great country, regardless of whether you are Indian or Syrian or Greek, if you're willing to work hard and make sacrifices, then you can achieve anything. And I'm a believer in that. That's how we were raised. Our parents raised me and my brothers to believe in public service, to always give back. So that's why I'm running for office. That's why I believe people who put themselves out there deserve a lot of credit. We need people to step up, to stand up now more than ever, to fight for our state, to fight for our country, to fight for our planet, and to fight for our democracy. So we need people like you to get involved, to get engaged in the process. That's why I feel so horrible I can't be there in person this evening, but I'd be honored and humbled to receive your support once again. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be there virtually this evening.
Okay, so we got some questions for you. So you talk about working with different diverse communities, and so all the partner organizations here today represent an often marginalized community. So how will you ensure the Secretary of State Services and your team will represent and serve our communities, hire diverse staff, utilize our expertise and counsel as diverse leaders and residents? Please be brief and specific.
Yes, so I can make a pledge to you this evening that my staff will be diverse, will represent the people of the state of Illinois, as Jesse White told me when we sat down. Make sure your office looks like the United Nations. But it's easy to make promises. It's another thing to have a track record, and I'm very proud of my track record. I made the same promise when I ran for state treasurer to this group, and I'm very proud of when I got elected. I named Robin Kelly to be my chief of staff, the first female African-American chief of staff or constitutional officer in Illinois history. She's now a United States Congresswoman. When it was time to name a deputy treasurer, I chose someone from the Indian community, Raja Krishnamurthy. He was my deputy treasurer. We worked great together. He had a lot to do with our policy, was a huge part of the state treasurer's office, and to see him become a United States Congressman has been an enormous thrill for me. Not just, as I mentioned, being the son of immigrants, but seeing his story, his rise, and playing even a small role in his success has been something very meaningful to me. So I'm proud of the people I've hired in the past, and I will continue to do so if I'm fortunate enough to get elected. Track records matter, and having done this and hired folks within this community and others is something that has been and will always be extremely important to me.
Okay, thank you. So with that being said, who from the community is backing you in this race? So from the Arab, African American, and Asian community. Millennials, young folks, and also prominent leaders in the community.
As I mentioned briefly, we've been endorsed by over 150 elected officials, folks from everywhere in Illinois, not just the county chairman, but I mentioned Mayor Jaisal Patel, Raja Krishnamurthy, Mayor Ram, who I'm also very proud of having received. Senator Ram, who I'm very proud to have received his support, has played a big role in our campaign, in our outreach. A number of other leaders from the progressive group, from Congressman Chuy Garcia, the 22nd Ward IPO, the 14th Ward IPO, African American leaders like Curtis Tarver, Will Davis, a number of others. So getting aldermen and state reps and state senators are very important, but at the end of the day, it's getting out there and talking to folks, and that's what we're working so hard on during this campaign.
Yeah, and so it's definitely important to have elected officials backing you, but what about community advocates? Do you have community advocates backing you in this race?
Yes, we've got a number of community activists, organizations. I think one of the organizations that, for example, I'm most proud of is Our Revolution, and they endorsed us early on. We've talked about using this office to fight for progressive ideals. It's a national organization. We were interviewed by the group, talked about what we wanted to do with the Secretary of State's office. We received their support, and we will continue to work to get other organizations to support our campaign.
Everybody, name me some community activists. Do you have backing you in this race?
I'm sorry?
Community activists and advocates that are backing you in this race? Arab, African American, or Asian?
I'm sorry.
So Arab, African American, or Asian community advocates in this that are backing you in this race.
Yes, but I don't have them offhand, so we'll get to those names. But like I said, a number of organizations and individuals and community activists.
Okay. So I did see that you and Representative Ford, you did speak about proposed to repeal an existing state law which prohibits hanging items in a rearview mirror, which is amazing. So props to you for that. As you know, black and brown drivers are stopped and subjected to discretionary searches at higher rates than white drivers across the state. Even though these searches are less likely to result in contraband being found in searches of white drivers, as the Secretary of State, how will you hold police officers responsible for using legitimate law enforcement considerations instead of using race and ethnicity to request searches?
Well, again, we've been talking to Representative Ford and a number of other aldermen and state senators and state reps on issues just like this, and we think this is an important step forward. And I think this goes to why your organization is so important and why forums like these are so important. A lot of people didn't even realize that this law was on the books. So getting rid of some of these antiquated, discriminatory laws are going to be important. And I think that's the first step in making sure that we hold law enforcement accountable for these actions. And I think that the expose that ran in the New York Times over the weekend showed some shocking numbers. And I promise you, if I'm fortunate enough to get elected, what we did today with Representative Ford will be just step one of many.
Okay, but how will you hold them accountable?
How will we hold them accountable?
Yes.
Well, like I said, repealing antiquated laws like the law that was on the books today is the first step. Doing everything we can, whether it's through legislation, whether it's through the Secretary of State's office, to make sure that this behavior doesn't exist. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to work very hard to hold them accountable and prevent this from taking place.
Okay, and so my next question is my last question for you. So Chicago advocates sued the Secretary of State, Jesse White, for not implementing automatic voter registration. What will you do to fully implement automatic voter registration?
So that's an enormously important component, one of the reasons why I'm running for this office. We've seen this attack on voting rights across the country, and I think this is the biggest attack on our democracy. Again, I mentioned my parents being immigrants. When they became citizens, voting wasn't a matter of whether they were going to vote. It was what time of day they were going to vote, right? It was such a big deal, so important to them as American citizens. And to see in the year 2021 this assault on voting rights across the country has been mind-blowing. It's been depressing, and we need people to step up now more than ever. That's something that's enormously important. We see these laws that are being passed to disenfranchise people. I will be a leader, a national leader, on making sure we do everything we can to enfranchise people, to make it as easy as possible to vote, to declare voting election day a national holiday, whatever it takes, increasing the ability to vote by mail. To answer your question directly, AVR is something that's important. It was important that it was passed. Unfortunately, implementation has not been up to par. One of our priorities from day one will be to make sure that AVR is implemented effectively, accurately, and aggressively. Again, I'm not here to talk about the past, but we need to make sure that going forward, it's done in the best possible way. AVR is an enormously important opt-out program within the state of Illinois. We need to be leaders, especially because we're an island of blue surrounded by a bunch of red states.
Okay, so let's look at 2 minutes, so I will ask you one more question. So I know you did mention having, for those individuals that are reentering society, that they get identification upon release from the Illinois Department of Corrections. Those machines, those used to be inside of IDOC. Those machines have been taken out. So what will you do to ensure people released from IDOC will have access to identification immediately? Will you put those machines back inside facilities for people re-entering society?
Yes.
Perfect. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm honored to be a part of this evening. I really wish I could be there in person. I want to thank you for all your support in the past. This is an incredibly important election, and I hope that you support our campaign, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone there for stepping up, for fighting for our democracy, for fighting for our country, and please, please be engaged in the process going forward. We've seen what Donald Trump has done to our nation. It's scary, it's horrifying, and our democracy is very, very fragile. So please, please, please get involved, get engaged, follow candidates that you believe in, support them, run for office. We need people, especially that are out there tonight, to get involved. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me. Thank you for being so engaged. And obviously I'd be honored to earn your support.
Thank you so much.